So here we have my 2021 KTM 300 EXC. In today's video we're going to go through every single thing on this bike, all the good things, all the bad things, and also why KTM is lying to you. I really could have done with cleaning the bike before making this video. Right, give me about 15 seconds and we should be back. All good? Well, let's try it again. Here is my 2021 KTM 300 EXC. Right, today we're going to talk about all the pros and cons. I said this before, but this is like starting a new video. So anyway, we're going to get into it. Let's see how many hours we've got on this bike. Okay, we need to explain this. 76.5 hours. I don't know if you can see that. Hopefully you can. 76.5. So yeah, first things first. When I turn on the bike, it comes up with an error code for the clock. So might as well get into it straight away. Let's get into some problems. So it comes up with an error code, whatever it is, and it means that either the clock's faulty or it needs a new battery. So what did I do? I put a new battery in it, and it still comes up with the code. So that's my first pet peeve with the KTM. So I don't know whether the clock's at fault or the battery's at fault, but you can see now when I click it, R04 code, error code. Bike still runs fine, everything's fine, no stress. Bit annoying. Okay, let's get into the electrical side of the KTM 300. So if you've been following the channel for a while, especially with this bike, you'll know I've had a few electrical problems with it, and the first was the crank pressure sensor. So that failed. And with this bike you have an air pressure sensor as well, and the air pressure sensor and the crank pressure sensor are basically exactly the same, so you can just swap them. So when my crank pressure sensor failed, we swapped the air pressure sensor with the crank pressure sensor and it ran fine. Only to find out a month later the crank pressure sensor broke again. So I ended up having to buy a new crank pressure sensor, so that was two I bought. Now I'm left without an air pressure sensor, which isn't too bad because I'm not going to be riding crazy altitude unless I take this bad boy to Romania with me, which is a possibility. But either way, I'll get another one soon because it's best to have a spare, so if one goes. Anyway, moving on. The throttle position sensor. Now this caused me so many problems. So if you can see this plug here, so here's the sensor and here's the plug. The first issue we had was the plug. So I didn't know the plug was the problem to start with, so the bike wouldn't start, and when it did, it was running absolutely awful, and then it would just decide when it wanted to start and when it wanted to run, and it caught me out in a few bad places in the middle of absolutely nowhere. My bike's broken down in the middle of nowhere. This is going to be a long way home. Now the throttle position sensor isn't as cheap as the crank pressure sensor. I think the throttle position sensor is about 200 and something pounds. The crank pressure sensor is about 100 and something pounds. So yeah, it's a big difference, really. So anyway, let's get into the plug part. So as you can see, here's the plug that connects into the sensor. So what we found was the pins in the plug had corroded. So water had got into this line here. Don't know how, but water got into it, which ended up getting into this plug and then corroded all the pins, so there wasn't a good connection there. So my friend Ralphie, you all know Ralphie, he ended up rebuilding the plug, and then we put it back in and everything worked fine until... See? Well, that sucks. I went to an enduro event and then I crashed, kind of slid on the side of the sensor, and then the bike kind of gave up on me. Now what I found was, it was two freak accidents. The plug was the problem first of all, and the sensor was fine, but then I fixed the plug, and then when I crashed, I damaged the sensor. Because the sensor is quite in the open here. A lot of people get cases for these protectors, which I will be doing next, because I think that is a big thing to do. So yeah, annoying, but life goes on. So the electrical problems with the KTM and any kind of TPI bike seems to be the same thing. So you hear stories about it all the time. It's just luck of the draw. There's a lot more electrical stuff going on these bikes than the old carb model, so things will break. I was very unlucky with the crank pressure sensor. But like I said, these things happen, and that's not a big word. It's a bit annoying when you're in the middle of nowhere and something breaks, but other than that, those are just little electrical problems you can have. So, oh, I've still got an Adventure Bike Festival sticker on there. Okay, they used some good glue on that, didn't they? They really wanted you to know you've been there. Okay, that took way longer than expected. So what I will say about the bike is that obviously mid 70 hours or so, I've not really had many problems with it. I know you might be laughing about the electrical problems, but you know, with 75 hours on it, or 78, whatever I've got on it, I can't even remember now, it's actually run really well. So what I have done, it was spluttering on the bottom end, so I wound the power valve out a turn and a half, and now I don't like it. It's really too snappy in the bottom end, and I like a really slow bottom end. No jokes, please. So that'll be going back in a turn and a half for that. Another issue I had with the bike, which is a fault of my own, was my front exhaust. So what I did was I put a carbon guard on it. Forget this being a little bit dirty, I will clean it up. It was just a quick job, okay? But anyway, I had a carbon guard, you probably know the ones that comes down and wraps around here to save me denting the pipe. But what happened was I hit something really hard, and the carbon guard kind of did its job and protected the pipe, but what it did was it pushed the pipe back and bent some brackets, like especially this one here. So I needed to get a new pipe, and what I did was I went with the FMF gnarly pipe, nickel plated, very sexy, very nice. So for the first part of this video, what I will say is that the bike is really good, no matter its problems or whatever. I absolutely love this bike, and I can't see it changing. The only thing I will say is it doesn't have linkage. So obviously on the Huskies and stuff, they have a linkage here. KTMs don't do linkage. I don't know why. My opinion is kind of that you need to be pretty good to notice the linkage. So I don't go fast enough to really notice it. So other than the linkage, very similar to the Husqvarna anyway. Suspension could do with being upgraded. So if you're buying a KTM from standard, I would suggest taking it to a shop and getting it set up for you, because the initial impact on the bottom, as soon as it hits those rocks, it's quite hard. But it does have Brembo brakes. So that is one big thing about the KTM which I like over the Husky, is that it has Brembo brakes, and these brakes are absolutely insane. So big recommendation there. Now moving on to why KTM is lying to you. Well, let's go through a few things, shall we? So KTM's biggest slogan, KTM, ready to race. But is it? First things first, you buy this out of the dealership. Does it come with good tires? Whether it's a Michelin or a Mitas? No, it comes with Maxis. Okay, well, it must come with mousses. Nah, it comes with tubes. You'd think it'd come with a sump guard. Nope, had to buy that myself. Well, it must come standard with like a nice big bar pad, surely. No, it comes with this, which is guaranteed to break your face. Well, surely if you're racing, you get a KTM Power Part seat, right? Also, no, you get a seat that if it gets wet, it's like a slip and slide water park. It's not great. Surely it comes with engine guards. Oh, no, it doesn't. You gotta buy them yourself as well. And if you want carbon, quite pricey. What about one of these nice foot pegs? No, the foot peg that comes with KTM is pretty much this big. It's like that big. Well, it surely comes with a disc guard. Surely, if you're gonna race and it's ready to race, it comes with a disc guard. Oh, that's a bit of a joke, isn't it? So don't get me wrong, this ready to race thing, I'm taking it a bit to the extreme, because I'm talking about like hard enduro racing. Which is obviously another point. I put pull straps on. They're only cheapy ones, but you get stuck in a bog, you get stuck on the rocks, you need some pull straps. You might have noticed this cable tie keeping my backlight on, and that is because I'm not good at pivot turns and I'm not good at wheelies. And obviously this happened from me trying a pivot turn up at Mick Excellence's place. I ripped the back off, and yeah, couldn't really afford a new one. So if any of you want to join the channel, thank you. The headlight on the KTM absolutely sucks. So if you were going to do a night race, good luck, you'll get lost, and we'll see you in a week. So all in all, even though it's not ready to race, I absolutely love this bike. I do love this bike. You can get other brands, and other brands come with different stuff. So if you went for a Beta or a Sherco, you'd get KYB suspension, which is way better than this suspension. So you can get that straight from the factory, straight out the door, and you've got KYB suspension. Other brands have linkage as well. This doesn't have linkage, and like I said earlier, I don't really notice the linkage. I have noticed it recently. Now my mind's kind of set on it, so when I'm going fast along a bumpy road, kind of feel it a little bit, but other than that, it's fine. So if you've been a subscriber to the channel for a while, you know I put my bike through absolute hell. and it's still holding up. I've thrown it down mountains, I flipped it on hill climbs, and I buried it in bogs. So all in all, my final review for the KTM with around 80 hours on it is a thumbs up. I really like this bike. I recommend anyone who wants a KTM, go out and get one. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like on it, helps me loads, and if you want any more informative videos, leave a comment down below. Cheers!